Hi, I'm Sam from Prismic. Today I'm here with Max Stoiber. He's on the team at Gatsby.js, and he's also a prolific open source contributor and creator. Today we are going to do a segment that we like to call Three Tweets. Max, I'm going to show you three tweets from your timeline and ask you for more information about what's going on here.
I am already scared. I tweet a lot, so I'm sure there's some tweets in there that I maybe shouldn't have tweeted. So I'm curious to see which ones you dug up.
No. There's nothing here that's going to get you in trouble, I promise.
All right.
All right. So the first one, I want to know how committed you are to this, and also how close.
Oh. This is like my life goal right now, I would say. Everything I'm doing is leading up to trying this again. I tried this once with Spectrum, but that felt a lot less intentional. Like, we founded the startup because we needed to pay ourselves a salary, but we didn't necessarily try our hardest to make it big. But I feel like as engineers, we have, or I specifically have, a unique skill set that actually would likely give me a good shot at building $1 billion startup. Of course, that's like still a moonshot. There's still a 0.1% chance of that actually happening, right? But I am probably in the 0.01% of people on the planet that have a chance to do that. And so I feel like it'd probably be a waste of time not to at least try. And it doesn't, like, saying I want to found $1 billion startup is more of a neat mental model. I don't actually care about the valuation, right? It's not about making a lot of money. Although, of course, the wealth and the prestige of that is sort of is a thing, of course, and something that I'm aiming for. But really, it's much more about the impact that implies, right? The valuation of a company, in most cases, although there's exceptions, comes from the impact you have on a lot of people. The more people the more people's lives you can impact, and the more value they gain from what you make, the more valuable your company is. And so really what I want to do is I want to try leveraging all the skills I have to impact the lives of as many people as possible in a positive way, right? Make their lives just a little bit better and get recognized as such. Yeah. So I'm kind of committed to this. It's a very long-term vision like this. I'm not going to try it immediately. I'm currently happy at Gatsby, seeing at what it's like to work at $1 billion startup, hopefully. We're not quite there yet, but almost. We're pretty close. So it's nice to be here and to witness that from the employee side. And then in a couple of years, I'm going to try to found my own once I find the right people and the right idea. And we'll see what happens then.
So is it fair to say that at this point, this goal is kind of at the stage where you've got ideas in notebooks beside your bed?
Kind of, although at the same time, I've built products before, like Feedbackfish and ChangeFeed, just with friends for fun because I like building products. And I've come to realize that I'm very bad at having good ideas. It's not the skill set I'm particularly good at, right? I'm not a person that's very good at understanding markets and discovering niches that could maybe be very valuable. I am a lot better at engineering. And so I think my actual best, like if I think about this strategically, my actual best chance of building $1 billion startup is finding someone who is as good at finding market opportunities as I am at engineering, and teaming up with them, because if they have done that a bunch of times, they'll be a lot better at it than I am at finding ideas. Just like I will be a lot better at engineering than they are because they haven't done it before. And so I think it's a lot about knowing the right person to do it with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so a quick follow-up on this one. This doesn't count as one of our three tweets, but
yeah, my
can
dad.
you tell us a little bit more about what's going on here?
Yeah. My dad's just my biggest fan, together with my mom. My dad and my mom had never used Twitter, but when my open source work exploded and I started getting more followers on Twitter, they made Twitter accounts for the sole reason of liking and retweeting everything I tweet. Which I find very nice. My parents are definitely my biggest supporters, and I would not be where I am without them. And so my dad was like, out of all the support that I've given you, I want to get some value from that. Like, please hurry up and found that $1 billion startup so I could finally have a piece of that, which I just found very funny. He's obviously not the youngest anymore. He's also not very old. He's 65 years old. So I hope he'll be around for a couple more decades, and I'll get to do it with him. But we'll see.
Nice. That's great. I mean, we can all use that kind of support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the next tweet. This is funny. I'm not sure everyone will get it because I remember when this meme was going around,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're a mechanic, name every kind of car that's ever existed. Um,
Yes.
so I found, but I remembered that meme, so I laughed when I saw this. Um, but
It
I
was a
thought it'd
good
be
meme. I
yeah, it was
think.
fun. I thought it would be an opportunity to talk a little bit about like to you, what is a front end engineer, and
Yeah.
can you please name every HTML element for us?
I absolutely cannot. I think a lot of what that, to me, a lot of what this meme is about is exposing what being a front end engineer isn't, all right, or what being a mechanic isn't. Being a mechanic doesn't mean that you know every car. Just like being a front end engineer isn't that you know every HTML element. You can Google that information, right? Um, you have to know some HTML elements, obviously, because that's what you're writing all day. But most of the specific ones, like there's so many, you can never know all of them, right? So you can always, whenever you need to, you can always Google and find the ones that you need. I think a lot of being an engineer is about knowing the right solution to a certain problem. Like everything we do all day long is solving problems, right? Even on a very minor scale, like how the hell do I put a button into a navbar, right? Like where's the navbar component? How do I put a button in there? Which button do I put in there? How do I even render a button, right? All of those are under air quotes problems that we're solving, and a lot of what we learn is actually kind of unrelated to solving those problems. Like knowing all HTML elements isn't going to make you any better at solving the kinds of problems that a front-end engineer solves all day long. What will probably make you better is being very good at Google, right? I Google a lot of stuff. And so being good at Googling which HTML element I should use for a certain thing makes me a lot more productive as a front-end engineer. But yeah, I mean, this was really more of a meme. I didn't think
Yeah.
about it
Oh
too
yeah.
deeply, but I just thought it was funny because no front-end engineer I know knows every HTML element. Absolutely
Yeah.
no one.
And plenty just use divs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, and the next one might be the biggest one. This is like obviously an amazing achievement. The effect that you're talking about here. But to get started, could you tell us an overview? What is CSS and JS, and what is styled components, and what are we looking at?
I'm going to try to give a short answer to this, although it's going to be pretty hard because I've spent the last 5 years of my life thinking about this.
Sorry, it's a terrible habit to pack 3 questions into one.
That's all right. You're all good. Very good questions. CSS and JS in general is a bunch of people trying to restrict CSS in a way that makes it easier to work with. It's about removing certain parts of CSS that don't make a lot of sense when you're using React because you have components and you want them to be encapsulated. And sort of removing the parts of CSS that actually maybe don't make a lot of sense in a component-based world. For example, class names. And that's sort of, in general, what CSS and JS is about. And style components is just one of the libraries that works in that direction and is now the most popular one. Style components, the HTTP archive recently did a study, and they figured out that of the 7.5 million public websites on the planet, 1% of those use style components, which is absolutely insane because those are websites that have been around for 30 years, right? We're talking legacy over legacy over legacy in terms of our industry, right? The fact that 1% of those already use style components is mind-boggling, particularly when you consider only 4% of them use React. So that to me, that blows my mind. 1% of websites use something I made. Like, that is insane. The amount of developers and users' lives I've been able to impact is fascinating and gratifying as hell. I love that part about open source. And the fact that we did that, and really the only way we did that, we could have accomplished that, is one, with a great team. I could have never done style components on my own. I co-invented it with Glenn Maddern, and then ever since we've had people like Evan and Phil who've helped us improve it and make it better, right? And the only reason it is now the framework that most developers say they would use again is because we've spent the last 5 years laboring over every single tiny decision in style components, trying to make it as nice and easily usable as possible, and trying to really help developers and listen to them and figure out what do we want ourselves, what do we want developers, what do developers want, how can we make their lives easier, how can we make our lives easier. Like really honing in on that is really what's made I think style components so popular, and it's the only way we could have ever gotten to 1% of the web. And like I said, I don't think we're going to be using style components 50 years from now, and that's totally fine, right? But the fact that right now we were able to invent something that takes us just one step further and just makes people's lives one step easier is really amazing. It just feels really great to me to have done that. And I hope, and I cannot wait for the next thing to come along, right? I'm really fascinated by what's the next step going to be. What is the next thing going to be that's going to make my life easier, right? Even easier than style components already made it. And I can't wait for that. And I can't wait to get there.
So cool. So cool. Max, that's all my questions. That's all the tweets. That's almost time. Although I don't think we're in a crunch here, but you probably are. But before you go, I just wanted to ask you if there's any question that I should have asked you, or anything that you wanted to add.
That's a good question. I don't think there was a question that you should have asked. I feel like you asked great questions, actually.
Thanks.
You obviously did your research, so. I also like this 3 tweets format. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I like how uncomfortable it makes our guests.
Yeah. I think you could actually make it a lot worse if you went back a little bit further, because those were all relatively recent tweets. I think if you went back to like 2015, you could have found some real doozies, and that would have been also kind of fun, but also kind of scary. I feel like you should try that sometime. Just go back really, really far. Maybe even people's, you know what could be even worse? If you have a guest that uses Instagram heavily, and then you scroll all the way down, there are hundreds of posts, and then you find like that like one post from 5 years ago that's really embarrassing. That would be hilarious.
Max, I checked. You have 56 posts on Instagram.
The fact that you know that is really scary. But yes, I'm not a heavy Instagram user. That's true.
But I will think about that for future users. Also, I have to be very careful because I have still not sanitized my Facebook, which I have had since 2007. I don't want anyone doing opposition research on me.
Opposition research, I like it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. It was really fun chatting, and we'll get this online
was very
soon.
fun. Yeah.
Send you a link.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.